the person who was at the front door. And he was standing there, and I don't think he was the main person. I think he was the guy outside who was waiting for them to come out.
He planned this crime in darkness. He executed it before dawn. He wore a mask. He wore gloves. He carried a backpack. He had a firearm in a holster strapped to his body. He disconnected the cameras. He disrupted the digital monitoring systems of an entire residential block. He thought about exposure from almost every angle. But he did his shopping at Walmart. Every item documented on that masked figure in 44 seconds of surveillance footage recovered from the back-end systems of Google, the backpack, the mask, the clothing, the holster, can be traced to a single retail ecosystem, not a specialty store, not a military surplus supplier, not an anonymous transaction on the dark web. The world's largest retailer, the most comprehensively documented commercial environment in the history of American commerce. The black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack on his back, a Walmart private label product sold exclusively through Walmart, confirmed through forensic analysis by the FBI. The ski mask, believed purchased at Walmart, according to what Sheriff Chris Nanos told CBS News on February 16, 2026. The clothing, dark jacket, light pants, believed to have been purchased at Walmart, per the same CBS News reporting of the sheriff's statement, though not exclusively available there. The gun holster, a roughly $10 model available at Walmart, closely examined by investigators according to what News Nation reported of the investigative focus on this specific item. One retail environment, one corporate transaction system, one network of security cameras covering every entrance, every register lane, every parking lot, every point of sale, one corporate database of purchase records, loyalty program data, timestamps, and location information. The man who thought darkness and a mask were his protection went shopping first, and the place he chose to shop may be the single most documented retail environment in the history of American commerce. Tonight we examine exactly what the Walmart evidence trail means for this investigation, how retail forensics works, what it reveals about the suspect's behavioral profile, why the combination of purchase record analysis, in-store surveillance, and DNA identification is converging on a specific person, and what the investigators who have spent days reviewing surveillance footage at local Walmart stores are actually looking for, and why they believe they are going to find it. Before we go deeper into this investigation, if you believe that cases like this one deserve serious, evidence-based, forensically grounded coverage, the kind that examines how investigations actually work, follows the documented evidence wherever it leads, and never sensationalizes the real tragedy at the center of this story, subscribe to Unclosed Files right now and hit the notification bell. We cover the cases that demand answers, new investigations every single week. If the Walmart connection is already on your mind, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. Which item do you think investigators can trace most directly back to the suspect? The backpack, the mask, the holster, or the clothing? Leave your analysis below. I read everyone. Now, before we get to the evidence analysis, there is a woman at the center of this case who deserves more than a case number and a search radius. Nancy Guthrie raised 3 children in Tucson, Arizona. She has lived in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood for more than 50 years, longer than most residents of that community have been alive. She widowed in 1988 when her husband Charles died at the age of 49 during a mining exploration trip in Mexico. She raised her family alone after that, watching her children build lives, becoming a grandmother, remaining deeply connected to her church community at a Presbyterian congregation in Tucson where her name has been spoken in prayer every Sunday since she disappeared. Her daughter Savannah is one of the most recognizable anchors in American morning television. Her daughter Annie lives nearby in Tucson. Her son Cameron has spent his career in military service and intelligence. Nancy was, by every description from people who knew her, fully mentally present despite her physical limitations. Sheriff Chris Nanos described her publicly with a specific phrase that has stayed with everyone following this case. He called her sharp as a tack, no cognitive impairment, a woman who understood everything happening around her. She relied on daily medication for serious heart-related conditions. She had a pacemaker that synced to her phone via Bluetooth. She had limited mobility. The sheriff confirmed publicly that she could not walk 50 yards unassisted. She wore hearing aids, and when she removed them at night to sleep, the world around her went silent. On the evening of January 31, 2026, She had dinner and a card game at the home of her daughter Annie. Her son-in-law Tommaso Cioni drove her home and waited until she was safely inside. The garage door closed at 9:50 p.m. on the precise digital timestamp documented by Sheriff Nanos at his February 5th press conference. That was the last normal moment. That door closing in the security record is the boundary between everything that is known and everything that this investigation is still working to establish. On February 16, 2026, 16 days after Nancy Guthrie was reported missing, Sheriff Chris Nanos issued the most definitive investigative statement since homicide detectives were assigned on the first day of the case. Every member of the Guthrie family, including all siblings and their spouses, had been cleared as possible suspects. His statement was direct. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. He then went further, using language unusual for a law enforcement executive in an active investigation. He told media outlets to knock it off, to stop speculating about the family. And he stated clearly that not one single person in the family was a suspect. That clearance matters to how we understand everything that follows, because the clearance means the investigative focus is entirely external. The person who approached Nancy Guthrie's door on the morning of February 1st, 2026, was not someone from inside her family. He was someone who prepared for this operation in advance, equipped himself deliberately, and then went to Walmart to do it. Now let us be precise about what investigators have actually confirmed as the Walmart connection in this case, because the documented scope of it is what makes the retail forensic trail so analytically significant. The backpack is the anchor of this entire evidentiary thread. The FBI confirmed officially after forensic analysis by their Video Forensic Analysis Unit that the suspect was carrying a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack. Ozark Trail is Walmart's private label outdoor brand. This designation is not incidental. Private label means the product was designed, manufactured, and sold exclusively for one retailer. The Ozark Trail hiker pack does not exist at REI. It does not exist at Dick's Sporting Goods. It does not exist on Amazon as a third-party purchase. It exists at Walmart. One retailer, one purchase ecosystem. One corporate database containing every sale of that specific product at every location across the country. Sheriff Nanos called it one of the most promising leads in the case, and he went further. Walmart has provided records of all Ozark Trail hiker online and in-store purchases over the past several months, including sales beyond the Tucson area, to investigators. That statement, documented verbatim by CBS News, describes an investigative step that is both technically specific and operationally significant. Walmart's corporate systems track every sale of every private label product by SKU, a unique stock-keeping unit identifier. Every purchase of that specific backpack in that specific size and color creates a transaction record tied to a date, a time, a store location, a register number, and if purchased through the Walmart app or Walmart Plus loyalty program, a customer account with associated contact information. That data set has been handed to investigators. The pool of people who purchased a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack in the months before February 1st, 2026 is finite and searchable. It is being searched. The ski mask is the second confirmed Walmart connection. Sheriff Nanos told CBS News that investigators believe the mask worn by the suspect in the doorbell camera footage was purchased at Walmart. The mask appears lighter in the footage than it actually is because of the Nest camera's infrared technology. Investigators determined the mask itself is black, consistent with a specific style available through Walmart's retail channels. Investigators have spent several days reviewing surveillance footage at local Walmart stores, per the same CBS News reporting. That invested time means they have a working theory about which Walmart location or locations the suspect visited. Surveillance footage at Walmart covers every entrance, every aisle, every register lane, and every parking lot. A person who walked through a Walmart buying a 25-liter backpack in a specific color and a black ski mask created a visual record on multiple camera systems that exists in Walmart's archive. The clothing, the dark jacket and light pants visible in the footage, is also being examined for its retail origin. The Sheriff's Department has stated that while these items are not exclusively sold at Walmart, they may have been purchased there. The investigation of Walmart's local store surveillance footage is focused partly on identifying whether the specific clothing visible in the doorbell footage matches products available at the locations being reviewed. If the clothing can be matched to a specific Walmart product, it adds another purchase event to the transaction overlap. And then there is the gun holster. This detail has received significantly less public attention than the backpack, but it sits in the forensic record with its own analytical weight. A gun holster was visible in the doorbell camera footage, strapped to the suspect's body in what former law enforcement officials who reviewed the footage described as an unusual and incorrect position, across the center of the waist rather than at the hip. Investigators are closely examining a holster described as approximately a $10 model available at Walmart, per what NewsNation reported of the investigative focus on this item. A $10 gun holster, not a tactical retention holster from a firearms specialty store, not a law enforcement duty holster designed for reliable draw under pressure, a $10 product from a mainstream retail chain. That choice is behaviorally significant in a way that deserves direct examination. Someone who selects a $10 holster and wears it in the wrong position is not someone with formal firearms training or professional operational experience. They are someone who needed to carry a firearm, decided the cheapest available option was sufficient, and either did not know or did not care about the correct way to position it on the body. That is the behavioral signature of a civilian who approached this operation practically rather than professionally. Someone who made functional choices rather than expert choices at every point in the equipment selection process. And every one of those practical civilian choices points to the same store. Now understand what this means when all four items are considered together as an investigative system. Investigators are not looking for someone who visited multiple specialty retailers across different categories. They are looking for someone who equipped themselves entirely, or nearly entirely, through one retail ecosystem. That is a specific behavioral signature. It is narrow enough to focus investigative resources on Walmart's own surveillance and transaction systems, which are among the most comprehensive in American retail. This is how retail forensics actually works in an investigation, and it is worth understanding precisely. Modern Walmart stores are not simply shopping environments. They are comprehensively monitored commercial spaces where every customer interaction with the store creates multiple documentary records simultaneously. Point-of-sale systems record every transaction with a date, a time, a store location, a register number, and a list of items purchased. Walmart's loyalty program infrastructure, including the Walmart app and Walmart Plus membership, connects purchase history to specific customer accounts that carry addresses, phone numbers, and payment information. Security cameras in the retail environment cover every section of the store floor, every aisle approach to relevant product sections, every register lane, and every entrance and exit point. Parking lot surveillance captures vehicles during the same time windows as interior transactions. License plate readers at some locations create an additional layer of vehicle documentation. Even a cash purchase does not create invisibility in this environment. A person who pays cash for an Ozark Trail backpack still appears on multiple camera angles during their time in the store, still shows up in parking lot surveillance, still creates a transaction record at the point of sale. The cash eliminates the direct financial connection to a specific account, but it does not eliminate the visual and timestamp record of the person's presence and the specific items they purchased. Investigators have specific parameters that narrow the transaction pool dramatically. The Ozark Trail hiker pack in the 25-liter size in black has a specific SKU. Every sale of that product at every Walmart in Arizona and surrounding states in the months before February 1st creates a record that can be pulled from Walmart's systems. Walmart has provided those records to investigators per Sheriff Nanos' statement to CBS News. The time window investigators are interested in, the weeks or months before February 1st, further narrows the pool. Cross-referenced against cell phone location data showing the suspect near specific stores and against vehicle information from parking lot surveillance during relevant purchase time windows, the transaction pool shrinks from hundreds of potential purchases to a handful of specific candidates. From there, in-store surveillance for each candidate purchase event provides a visual record that investigators can compare against the 44 seconds of doorbell footage they already have. The suspect's gait is documented. His build is documented. His height has been forensically reconstructed using an osteometric board at the actual scene by the FBI's Video Forensic Analysis Unit. His posture, the way he carries himself, the specific physical signature of his movement. All of that is on record from the doorbell footage. Walmart's surveillance footage of someone buying these specific items provides a comparison opportunity. Same gait, same build, same physical signature, different environment, no mask. Former FBI agent Jason Pack addressed this investigative approach directly in commentary documented by Fox News Digital. Investigators are working backwards from those images, he said. If they can identify that backpack, that jacket, those specific items, they are running purchase records from every retailer in the Tucson area. He described the methodology as systematic elimination. Someone either appears in the purchase records for these specific items or they do not. The DNA evidence is the second converging track, and it connects to the Walmart evidence in a way that creates dual-path verification rather than two independent investigations. The FBI confirmed that a glove recovered approximately 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home visually matches the gloves worn by the suspect in the surveillance footage. DNA from the interior of that glove produced a profile of an unknown male. That profile was entered into CODIS, the FBI's combined DNA index system, which contains profiles from individuals with prior arrests for certain crimes. The initial CODIS search returned no direct match against the more than 26 million profiles in the database. That result is significant, but not conclusive. CODIS is not the end of the DNA road. It is the first stop. Genetic genealogy, the same methodology that identified the Golden State Killer after decades of failure through conventional DNA database matching, is the next step. Forensic genealogists use partial matches between the unknown profile and profiles voluntarily submitted to public databases by people who have no criminal record. Those partial matches identify biological relatives. From relatives, investigators build family trees outward and then narrow back to specific individuals who match the geography, the time period, and the other evidence in the investigation. C.C. Moore, one of the foremost practitioners of forensic genetic genealogy in the country, stated publicly that if she were the suspect in this case, she would be deeply concerned about what investigators are now doing with the DNA evidence. Her assessment is based on professional knowledge of what that methodology can produce from a biological sample that has no direct CODIS match. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed separately that DNA distinct from Nancy and from anyone in close contact with her was collected from inside her property. The exact location of that DNA on the property has not been publicly disclosed. But CNN's chief law enforcement analyst John Miller identified the specific investigative question that connects the two DNA samples. Does the DNA from the glove's interior match the DNA found inside the home? If it does, investigators have established that the same person who wore the glove also entered the residence. That corroborating connection transforms two independent samples into a pattern. One biological profile present at two distinct locations along the documented route of the operation. The convergence of these two investigative tracks, retail forensics and DNA identification, is what makes this stage of the investigation analytically different from the first 2 weeks. In the early days, investigators were establishing the basic facts: who Nancy is, what the scene showed, what the surveillance footage documented, what the timeline looked like. Now, investigators have specific evidentiary systems that are actively narrowing the suspect universe. The retail records are narrowing through purchase data and in-store surveillance. The DNA is narrowing through CODIS, genealogy, and cross-comparison between the glove and the property sample. When both tracks arrive at the same person, and the convergence of evidence suggests they are pointed in the same direction, the result is a dual-verified identification. The retail record showing someone purchased these specific items at a specific location on a specific date, combined with a DNA profile connecting that same person to the glove found along the departure route and to the interior of Nancy Guthrie's home, is the evidentiary foundation that prosecutions are built from. Let us also examine how the public tip volume interacts with the retail forensic evidence, because that interaction is where the investigation's real momentum is currently concentrated. Between 30,000 and 50,000 tips were received by investigators in the Nancy Guthrie case as of the third week of the investigation, according to what Sheriff Nanos told various media outlets. That volume of public response is extraordinary by any standard. It reflects the combination of Savannah Guthrie's national television platform the emotional resonance of an elderly woman taken from her home in the middle of the night, and the specific public engagement strategy the FBI deployed when releasing the surveillance footage. That strategy was not accidental. Rather than releasing general images and hoping for tips, the FBI released actionable specifics: a particular backpack model, a height range, a build description, specific equipment items. The difference between general awareness and actionable recognition is the difference between someone who vaguely remembers a news story and someone who looks at a specific backpack with reflective straps and thinks, "I have seen that backpack before," on a specific person, in a specific context, at a specific time. The Ozark Trail hiker pack is the clearest example of this recognition pathway. Millions of people saw the footage. Some of those millions have seen that exact backpack before, not in a store display, but in the possession of a specific person they know, in a context that now, combined with the footage, creates a connection that did not exist before the FBI released those images. That is why the tips that followed the footage release produced thousands of calls within the first 24 hours of the footage becoming public. The footage created specific recognition opportunities that general missing person awareness cannot generate. The Walmart clothing information, released on February 16th through Sheriff Nanos' statements to CBS News, creates another wave of specific recognition. Someone who saw a person buying a ski mask and a black backpack together at a local Walmart in the weeks before February 1st now has context that makes that memory investigatively relevant. A combination of items bought together or in close succession is exactly the kind of thing that stands out even at the time of observation and becomes actionable information when connected to footage of an actual crime. Investigators are cross-referencing tip information against the retail records in real time. A tip identifying a specific person can be immediately checked against Walmart's purchase database for the relevant items. A purchase record showing someone bought the relevant items can be checked against tip submissions mentioning that person. The convergence of public recognition and forensic retail evidence creates verification pathways that neither generates alone. This is how investigations with massive public engagement become systematically productive rather than overwhelming. Not every tip is equal. Tips that align with what the physical evidence is showing receive elevated immediate processing. The Walmart evidence trail creates the specific framework that elevates the right tips from the volume. Now let us address the cell tower dimension of this investigation, because it connects the retail forensic evidence to the digital tracking that investigators are pursuing in parallel. The FBI confirmed that Google searches for Nancy Guthrie's home address were traced to an Arizona IP address beginning as early as March 2025, approximately 8 months before she disappeared. Additional searches for Savannah Guthrie's salary were conducted from Arizona in December 2025. Those searches were traced to a specific IP address, which means they were conducted from a specific device connected to a specific network at a specific location. That investigation is ongoing. Cell tower data from the nights of January 23rd, the apparent dress rehearsal documented on a Ring camera 6 miles from Nancy's home, and February 1st are both within the investigative scope. A tower dump covering the cell towers servicing those locations during the relevant time windows captures every device that connected to those towers. Overlaying the lists from both dates creates a comparison. What device appears in both locations on both nights? A person can construct an alibi for the night of a crime they know will be investigated. Constructing a digital alibi for a rehearsal night 9 days earlier, when they had no way of knowing a camera caught them and no reason to believe investigators would focus on that specific date, is a fundamentally different challenge. The Walmart surveillance footage connects to this in a specific way. If investigators can identify through purchase records and in-store surveillance the date and time when the suspect was at a specific Walmart location, they can check cell tower data for that date and time at that location. A device that appears in the cell tower records for a Walmart store on a specific date, appears near Nancy's home on the night of the rehearsal, and appears near Nancy's home on the night of February 1st, is a device with a story that no attorney can easily explain away. 3 separate locations, 3 separate dates, 1 device. That convergence, retail transaction timestamp, in-store surveillance, cell tower confirmation, is the kind of triangulated digital evidence that prosecutors describe as airtight. It is also the kind of evidence that the suspect almost certainly did not think about when he walked through a Walmart with a cart and a shopping list. He thought about the mask. He thought about the gloves. He thought about the camera at Nancy's door. He thought about the darkness and the timing and the route of departure. He did not think about the cell tower his phone was pinging when he paid for the backpack. The behavioral profile that emerges from the equipment choices is worth examining one final time, because it speaks to the kind of person investigators are looking for and why the Walmart trail may reach him. Every item in this kit reflects the same principle: accessible, affordable, practical, civilian, the cheapest viable option in each category, the most easily available retail source for each item. Nothing that requires a specialty account, a licensed dealer, a background check, or access to a professional supply chain. The $25 backpack, the $10 holster, the mask and clothing from the general retail floor of a store where tens of millions of Americans do their ordinary shopping. This is not the equipment selection of someone who has operated with professional gear before and knows what quality differences mean for performance. It is the selection of someone who approached this problem the way a practical person approaches any problem. What do I need? What is the cheapest place to get it, and how quickly can I get it? But there is a specific tension in this behavioral profile that investigators are working through. The operational sophistication displayed on the night of February 1st was not amateur, disabling the doorbell camera, disrupting the digital monitoring architecture of a residential block, approaching the property with apparent knowledge of the camera layout, moving through the home without leaving visible evidence of chaos or struggle across the interior spaces, executing a controlled extraction that produced a blood pattern consistent with deliberate, unhurried movement rather than panicked flight. That level of operational discipline is not consistent with a person who stumbles into crime without any planning or preparation. It is consistent with someone who thought carefully about what they were doing and prepared for it systematically, including, apparently, the 8 months of digital research that investigators traced to an Arizona IP address. And yet the gear says civilian. The gear says no formal training. The gear says this person equipped themselves from whatever was available and affordable, with no understanding of what professional operators know about equipment selection and performance. That combination, sophisticated operational planning with civilian-grade equipment, points toward a specific profile, not a professional criminal or a trained operative, not a drifter or an opportunist. Someone who is intelligent and systematic enough to plan an operation over months, but who has no background in the professional criminal or military world that would have generated different equipment choices. Someone who researched the problem thoroughly, who thought about timing, about cameras, about digital disruption, who understood the operational requirements well enough to execute them with a level of discipline that surprised investigators by the absence of chaos in the crime scene, but who had never done anything like this before at a professional level, and so equipped themselves the way an intelligent but inexperienced person equips themselves for a first serious undertaking, by going to the store and buying the most accessible version of what they needed. That store was Walmart, and Walmart's records are in the investigative system now, being reviewed by people who have done this before and know exactly what they are looking for. The reflective strips on the Ozark Trail backpack are worth noting specifically because they represent the most vivid illustration of the gap between planning and professional knowledge in this case. The backpack has reflective safety strips along the straps, a design feature intended to make outdoor hikers more visible to drivers at night. It is a consumer safety feature. It is also under the infrared technology that Nest doorbell cameras use to capture footage in low-light conditions, essentially a set of glowing signal strips that make the backpack dramatically more visible than the suspect likely understood. A professional operative selecting a backpack for a nighttime operation would never choose a backpack with reflective strips. The visibility is exactly the wrong characteristic for that application. But a person who went to Walmart, looked at the outdoor section, and picked a 25-liter backpack because it was the right size and the right price, that person may never have thought about how the reflective strips would appear on infrared camera footage. Those strips are now one of the most identifiable features of the suspect's gear in the doorbell footage. The feature designed to keep hikers safe became the feature that makes this particular backpack unmistakable on video. And because it is a Walmart exclusive, every sale of a product with those specific reflective strips in that specific size creates a purchase record in the system that investigators now have access to. He planned carefully, he executed with discipline, and he bought a backpack with glowing strips that his own planning failed to account for. That person walked into a Walmart. They put items in a cart. They walked to a register. They paid. And they walked out through a parking lot under surveillance with a timestamp on their transaction, leaving a record in systems that the world's largest retailer has now handed to the FBI. Objects do not forget. Retail systems do not forget. And the man who bought everything at Walmart gave investigators something the darkness was supposed to prevent: a paper trail. Let us take a moment to map precisely where the investigation stands as the retail forensic and DNA tracks converge, because understanding the current state gives the closing picture its proper weight. The FBI has the Walmart purchase records for the Ozark Trail hiker pack, every online and in-store sale of that specific product in the months before February 1st, covering not just Tucson but the broader region, as confirmed by Sheriff Nanos. Investigators have spent multiple days reviewing in-store surveillance footage at local Walmart locations. They have a visual reference from the doorbell footage, gait, build, height, physical signature, to compare against every person captured on Walmart's cameras buying the relevant items. The DNA from the glove has been processed through CODIS. No direct match. Genetic genealogy is the active next step, using public databases to identify biological relatives and build family trees that narrow to specific individuals. The DNA from inside Nancy's home is under separate analysis at a contracted laboratory in Florida, with investigators working to determine whether it yields a usable profile for database comparison. If it does, and if it matches the glove DNA, the corroborating biological connection between the glove found along the departure route and the interior of the residence is established. Cell tower data from January 23rd and February 1st is within the investigative scope. The IP address from which the 8 months of pre-crime Google searches were conducted has been traced and is under investigation. The backpack's reflective strips make the specific product identifiable on the surveillance footage in a way that will allow investigators to confirm a match the moment they find the same product in the hands of a specific person on Walmart's cameras. Every one of those investigative threads is active. None of them has publicly resolved, but each one is a converging line pointed toward the same person. The person who thought the darkness would protect him and forgot that the store he visited before the operation has cameras on every aisle, timestamps on every transaction, and a corporate data system that handed its records to the FBI. Nancy Guthrie has been missing since February 1st, 2026. She has not been found. Her family is living with an uncertainty that does not resolve and does not rest. Savannah Guthrie, in a public statement documented by CBS News, said what has become the defining statement of her family's public appeal: "It is never too late to do the right thing." She still believes. She still has hope. The Walmart purchase records are in the system. The DNA is being processed against genealogy databases. The in-store surveillance footage is being reviewed by investigators who have spent days inside those stores. The pacemaker signal technology continues to search for Nancy's unique Bluetooth signature across the desert terrain of southern Arizona. There is one more dimension of the Walmart evidence trail that deserves examination before we close, because it connects the retail forensics to a question that investigators are apparently treating as central: whether the purchase was made in person or online. Sheriff Nanos confirmed to CBS News that Walmart provided records of all Ozark Trail hiker online and in-store purchases over the past several months, including sales beyond the Tucson area. That scope, both in-store and online, both local and regional, reflects the investigative reality that a person planning a serious operation might deliberately avoid purchasing equipment locally. Buying a distinctive backpack at a Walmart in a different city or county reduces the probability of encountering someone who recognizes you. Buying online creates a delivery record but removes the in-store surveillance exposure. Investigators are tracking both pathways. Online purchases of the specific product create shipping records tied to delivery addresses. Even if a person uses an address other than their own, a post office box, a neighbor's address with or without permission, a commercial mail receiving agency, the digital footprint of an online purchase is extensive. The IP address from which the order was placed, the device identifier, the payment method, the delivery confirmation. Each of those creates a data point in a system that can be subpoenaed by the FBI. Former FBI agent Jason Pack, in his commentary documented by Fox News Digital, noted that if someone tried to acquire these items through online retailers, Investigators would be checking delivery records for the items at local addresses and would also be looking at pawn shops and secondhand stores in the Tucson area, anywhere someone might try to dispose of gear after the fact. That last point is worth sitting with. The investigation is not only tracing the purchase forward from the store to the suspect, it is also tracing backward from the suspect's potential disposal of the equipment. A person who realizes after February 1st that investigators are publicly identifying their gear through surveillance footage may attempt to destroy or dispose of the items. But disposal creates its own evidence trail. Items thrown in a dumpster can be recovered. Items left in a public location can be found by the kind of systematic community searchers who have been covering the terrain around Tucson for weeks. Items sold at a pawn shop create a transaction record. Items that simply disappear from a household create an absence that can be documented through other means. The Walmart paper trail does not end at the point of purchase. It extends forward through every subsequent interaction with those items in any documented environment, and it extends backward through the digital record of how the decision to purchase was made, from what device, at what location, with what payment method. The person who went to Walmart thought he was buying anonymity along with the equipment. He was buying the opposite. 16 days, a shopping list, a DNA profile, and a paper trail that the darkness could not erase. If you have any information about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov. The Pima County Sheriff's tip line is 520-351-4900. The combined reward exceeds $1 million. Every detail matters. Every tip is reviewed. If this investigation reached you, if it made the evidence make sense in a way that keeps you thinking, subscribe to Unclosed Files. Hit the notification bell. We follow the forensic trail on this case and on every case that still demands answers. New investigations every single week. We do not look away, and we do not stop until the full picture is revealed. This documentary was produced for informational and educational purposes only, based entirely on publicly available sources, including official law enforcement statements documented by CBS News, ABC News, NBC News, CNN, Fox News Digital, News Nation, and the Pima County Sheriff's Department. No individual has been charged in connection with this case. The investigation is ongoing. All analysis presented reflects documented forensic and behavioral evidence, not speculation. Nancy Guthrie deserves to come home. Her family deserves answers. And the paper trail that started at a Walmart register deserves to reach the person who left it. The pacemaker signal technology, drones and ground-based equipment searching for the unique Bluetooth MAC address of her device, continues to be deployed across southern Arizona. The pacemaker has between 6 and 7 years of battery remaining. If Nancy Guthrie is alive, her pacemaker is still transmitting. The technology that is searching for that signal does not stop. It covers terrain that ground searches cannot access, and every transmission her pacemaker sends is a signal that the investigation is searching for, with equipment designed specifically to find it. Her family is waiting, her congregation is praying, and the paper trail that started at a Walmart register, a transaction that the suspect may have thought was the most forgettable moment in the entire operation, is the thread that investigators believe connects to the answer.